Hey everyone, it's AlluringSimmer here, back with another speed build, and today we're going to be doing a cozy cottage with like modern vibes. I don't really know how to describe it, but I was initially going to do a CC shopping video, but then I decided I was feeling a little bit uninspired for that. I didn't really know what exactly to shop for, and I feel like it was a bit easier around the holidays because I had like a specific thing that I wanted to look for when I would go CC shopping. So instead, we are building a house, and I hope that you guys enjoy it because it took me quite a few days to like put it together and get it to where it was at in the end. And honestly, I'm actually very satisfied with how it turned out. The roofing was kind of a mess. I had a friend help me out with like making the roof look good in the end, and I think this was like my most, well, maybe one of my most ambitious builds when it comes to roofing, but I feel like in the end it turned out pretty cute. I built this, I'm pretty sure it's in Henford on Bagley, and I think this is like one of my few times like building in this world. And this world is really pretty. I bulldozed someone's lot, one of the townies lots, just so I could build here because I liked the little river that goes around it, and I felt like that fit the vibe of the house I wanted to build. And honestly, this is just a little recommendation for you all, but like we need to start bulldoze. I can't even speak, but we need to start bulldozing townies' houses more. This is a year of bulldozing the townie's house. I get it. There's the lore. You don't want to get rid of the Sims that, kind of make up the game. But, like, they are living on the best lots. And I don't think that's fair. Okay? So, 2024, on my vision board, one of my goals is to just bulldoze more townies' homes. So let's make that a hashtag. Hashtag bulldoze the townies homes. I'm gonna have to work on that one because it's a little long. But anyway, here's the roofing. You can see that it was a process. There's like quite a few roofing pieces that I needed to place in order to make everything kind of meld together and make sure that it wasn't like, intruding into the house. So here you can see me struggling through the process of that and eventually getting it together. This video is gonna kind of like jump around a little bit because again, I was working on this like over the course of a couple days, but also like I was jumping around the build even as I was making it because I would start somewhere and then be like, oh, I want to work on the exterior, or oh, I want to add some more like clutter pieces to the kitchen or something. So I really apologize for that. Hopefully in the next speed build I can be a little bit more organized, but honestly, I think doing it this way helps me to make sure that I get it all done because I kind of work on the parts that I have ideas for in that moment as opposed to like trying to work on it in a specific order even if I'm not like really knowing what I want to do in a certain room, if that makes sense. So here I am trying to make this kind of a loft vibe. I went into this build knowing kind of what I wanted to go for and what things or aspects I wanted to bring into the build, but not really sure how I was going to put it all together. Like I knew I wanted it to have the like look and feel of a cottage. I knew I wanted it to be a bit more modern, and I knew I wanted to have a loft and a library. So I made sure that I had all of those things because I don't think I would have been satisfied with this build if it didn't incorporate all those details. But it also was a bit of a challenge trying to make sure that all of those things work together in this build. But I think it worked out in the end. I will be uploading this to the gallery. If it's not up by the time you're seeing this video, it will be up within the next week or so. I do think I made maybe a couple changes before like or after like recording everything. So if it looks slightly different from how it looks like in the end, then I apologize for that, but it's going to be pretty much the same. Um yeah, this is also one of my like very few times making a loft, and I kind of want to do it in builds more often. I'm really intrigued or interested to make a loft like penthouse or one of those apartments where you can have like multiple stories in San Myshuno. I want to make one that has a loft, and like I can envision it now how I want it to look, and hopefully I can actually make that vision come to life in this game. So after I finished with most of the roofing, I started to work on the interior. So there is a little bit of a jump, as I said before. There's gonna be quite a few of those because I was like moving back and forth between the build, kind of trying to figure out like the layout and what I wanted to do. The layout did change quite a bit throughout the entirety of making this, which at first I don't know if anyone else who does shell challenges has this issue, but sometimes even when I'm not doing a shell challenge, I forget that I'm not doing that and I still continue to try to follow the rules. So I'll make like the shell of the home that I'm going to build, and this isn't a regular build, not a shell challenge. And for some reason, I forget that I can just like move the walls around and I can adjust the layout to my liking because it's not a shell challenge. So yeah, at this point was when I realized that I can change it up, make it larger, and do whatever works to make sense for what I want to do with the house. This is also one of my first. I keep on saying this is my first time, but I really was experimenting with this build. I will be honest. A lot of the things that I've done with this specific house, I've never done before. So it's definitely like a little, I guess, test run for some things that I hope to do more in the future, like using the columns and like spandrels as beams to kind of support the loft area of the house, having a loft to begin with, mixing like cottage vintage style with like a modern style. And I don't know, even the color choices, like I don't tend to use like darker wood tones as much, and I use that a lot in this build, which you'll see later on. I started off with like a very light pale wood swatch, and even the walls were like very white and gray and just like very light colors. But you'll see it'll slowly transform throughout this build because I realized I wanted to like push myself to do things that I don't do as much. One thing that I really want to do in the future more is terrain, like using the terrain tools, changing up the landscape and not just like, adding terrain paint all the time, like maybe making like little hills or making a pond. And I feel like I don't really take advantage of those tools that often, and also because of that, I don't really know how to use them that well. So if anyone has any tips for using the terrain tools, not the paints, but just like, you know, adding like hills or making like dips in the landscape, then let me know. Leave them in the comments down below because I need advice. Um, so this green room that you see here was a choice. I definitely have never used this wallpaper before, especially not in that swatch because I don't know, I don't really tend to use green in my builds unless it's like the plants. But I think this room is probably my favorite room in the house, and you'll see later on why that is. I feel like I spent a lot of time on this room, and it's also one of the rooms that I really wanted to incorporate into this build. The main reason why I wanted to have this room is I was looking at a few of the inspo pics that I had saved for like a while and never actually made a build inspired by any of those things. And one of them had the picture or had a picture of like a really beautiful library. And honestly, this library looks nothing like that one at all. But it made me realize how much I want to have a room that's like solely dedicated to books, I guess. Um, and it turned out so cute. Like honestly, I would live in this house, and I know I probably do tend to say that about quite a few of my builds, but this one, like for sure, this is like a dream because I really like the cottagecore style or the vintage style, but then I also feel like there are elements of it that I would like to personally be like more modern, and I think that this build does like a good job of that. Obviously I made it, but I do think like I managed to balance the two different styles well, where that like they weren't really, conflicting with each other, but they like worked together to make a decent build. I don't know. Hopefully you guys think so too. Here I am with the landscaping. Again, landscaping terrain tools are not my forte. So if you have any tips for landscaping as well, then let me know, because this has been my default since I started playing The Sims 4. Place down a couple of plants to like frame the house, place a couple plants like here and there, and then I throw some dirt on, or throw some dirt down underneath. So if anyone has any advice for like how to make it look nicer, what like color choices you guys make, what types of plants you guys use more often, then let me know. I think the whimsical kind of vibe like this works really well for the style build that I was doing. But sometimes when you're doing like a more modern build or just any other style where you don't want to have as many plants, I don't really know how to make it look good without just adding plants everywhere. So, yeah, one thing I struggle with for sure is like balancing when it comes to placing down the plants for landscaping. So now here there is like a little path that like leads up to this lot, and I wanted to kind of show like a little continuation of it, but obviously there's no way for me to like actually attach it since there's like a gap between the lot itself and the pathway. So I tried to create like this little stone path that kind of looked like it was leading up to it, and I think it turned out cute. Here I realized I made a little bit of a mistake. So I realized that I could have used the pond feature, but because I'm so used to not having the ponds, or maybe I just, haven't built with ponds enough since it has been released, which I feel like has been quite a long time ago. Um, I used the fountain instead, and I added a little fountain piece in the middle so that it'll spray water in the air. I think it'll look really cute, but I kind of wish that I had taken advantage of the feature that exists to make ponds, because I think it would look a little bit more realistic and I could have made the shape feel a bit more natural. So after we were finished with the little pond, I added a cute little bench, and then on the back porch I added the stairs and railings. And I changed the railings that were inside the house because I wanted it to have more of the like brown wooden feel that we have downstairs. And then for the bathroom downstairs, we went with like a half bath. I feel like it definitely has the mix of like a modern and vintage. I decided to change up the layout quite a few times to kind of, give a little bit more space to the other areas of the house. And then it was just a matter of figuring out what lighting to use, because I kind of wanted to have some sort of sconce above the toilet area, since when you have like I guess like a little divot in a room, I don't really know how else to best explain it, that area of the room will be dark even if the rest of the room is illuminated. So I was like, I need something over here so it's not like, I don't know, scary when your sim is using the restroom. And then here I'm just adding in some little extra pieces to make it feel not as plain. I don't know. I wanted to add a painting. I added a little rug by the sink. These like sheer curtains, and I actually ended up changing out the toilet to give more of the vintage style. I honestly tend to use the tiny living toilet by default, but to be fair, I don't actually like it that much. It's just like become the one that I tend to go for first. And then here I was just adding some little like knickknacks above the toilet. I don't know what that part of the toilet is called, but I added some little stuff up there, and then I added a little toilet brush and cleaner in the corner. And now we're moving on to the library. Again, this is my favorite part of the build. I love it so much, and I hope that you all love it too if you decide to download this build. This was like the main feature of this house. This was like supposed to be the biggest, or I guess just like the just, I don't know, the main feature. I don't know why I'm trying to say something else. So I added in these like curtains. I think they're from Paranormal Stuff, and honestly I think they looked really cute, but I ended up removing them in the end because I felt like it was a little much with like the vines and everything. Choosing the color scheme for this room was very difficult. I was debating between whether or not I wanted to do like lighter colors or darker colors, and I just kept switching back and forth constantly. I ended up settling on having a bit of both, and I think it works out in the end. choosing a desk was rather hard because I feel like there were so many desks that looked cute in this space, but then they didn't really match the style, or they were just like a little too large for that little nook area of this room. So I was kind of going for a mix of like an office space, but also like a cozy reading area. And honestly, I want this sofa in real life because it just looks so soft and cute. And I don't know, like I want this library. Like whenever I decide to build my own house, I need a library that looks like this. I like the open window because it like gives the natural light, and then there's also like that little nook for, you know, any office needs you may have. Here I changed out the rug. It was like the lighter blue and yellow swatch, and I changed it out for a darker one because the rest of the room had very dark colors. And then here I was trying to choose the coffee table to go in front of the couch, one that was not too small but also like not too big. And then this one had like the black from the office chair and then the brown from like the rest of the room. So I ended up settling on that. I also ended up changing the color of the couch. So I guess I ended up going for just the darker colors in this room. But I think it turned out really nice. And here I was just adding in like little things to kind of add more clutter to the bookshelves. Um, I used the wall shelf from the Book Nook kit to kind of make it look like those books were sitting on the shelves, but really they're actually against the wall, and I think it turned out cute. And then here I added some tables. I think I initially added two and then ended up going for just one on the outside, just because I feel like the space between what is going to be the living room and this library was large, and I needed something to kind of break up the space but also fill in the large gap between the two rooms. Um, I did make sure to paint all the ceilings, which I, you know, again, the new build features that we've gotten, which some of them honestly aren't that new anymore. I feel like I haven't gotten much like experience with them, so sometimes I just forget to use them. But I made sure to use it here. One thing that I have been doing that's really been helping me to make sure that like one, all the walls are painted and making sure that like I don't forget little details like that, is making sure to paint all the rooms before I even like decide the actual colors, and also painting the ceiling. Even if I decide to change out like a wallpaper or something, I will most likely remember to change the ceiling as well to kind of match whatever wallpaper I decide to use. However, if I don't put it at all at any point, then I might forget to paint a wall or I might forget to paint the ceiling. So this kind of helps me to make sure that I do all the things that I want to do and don't forget about something and notice it later. Another thing I do when I'm like building each room is I think about like what is a necessity for this room, and I try to either place those down first or just be conscious of it the whole time I'm building. So for like the kitchen, I'm like, this needs to have a fridge, it needs to have a stove, a sink, a trash can, and then I'm always going to remember the counters and the islands because those are like the main feature, but sometimes you forget a fridge or the stove or the sink because those are things that you usually add in later. So that's been one way to help. When I go to like a bathroom, I know that it has to have a toilet and a sink at least. And then if I'm doing a full bath, I'm like, okay, we need to make sure we have the toilet, sink, and shower, and then we can add all the extra stuff afterwards. So putting all the necessities in the room first, even if I end up changing it out for a different option, make sure that I remember everything that I need to have in that room so that it'll be functional. Because one thing about like when I do builds like this that are going to be for YouTube, or if I'm doing a build where I'm not using any custom content, one thing that I try to make sure is that the build will be functional. I don't playtest my builds, I will be honest. I did not playtest this one, but I'm hoping that everything works fine. Although I do kind of have the concept that like Sims only need like a half tile space to like walk in between like smaller areas. So for what it seems, they should be able to navigate the build easily. But if for whatever reason they can't get to something, then I would just say like look in the area and see what could be potentially getting in the way, and then just delete that item or replace it with something else. If I do decide to play in this build and I notice anything that's wrong, then I'll either like post a comment here to like give a little update, or maybe I'll just re-upload it. So we'll see. For the kitchen, I ended up using the base game counters and cabinets, which I don't tend to use that often, but I feel like for this specific style it worked really well because it has the brown that kind of like matches the door and the library area, but also it's like more of a vintage style of counters and cabinets. But then I mixed it up by adding like more modern appliances. I kind of wanted to give the vibe that this is like a home that's existed for a while, and maybe the new homeowners wanted to keep like elements of it to keep the like original style of the house, but they still wanted to upgrade some of the things or make them more modern to kind of fit their own personal style. Obviously, I didn't make Sims to live here, but that's, I don't know. I don't know if anyone else does this, but I have to like create a storyline for every house that I build, because that helps me with like choosing the clutter and choosing the little extra decorations for the house, when I have an idea of what kind of Sims I think would live in the house. Let me know if you do that too in the comments down below. Do you guys create a storyline for your house, or do you just go in and build? Because I feel like if I don't do that, then my builds tend to be like very plain and boring. um but like maybe other people who have more experience with building and know how to build in particular styles don't have to do that. um so now we're working on the living area. For this room, I did start off with like lighter colors, but I think I ended up transitioning into like more darker colors in the end. I really, again, was trying to like break out of my comfort zone. I tend to use light colors, light woods all the time, and I wanted to make this different. So here I am just adding in stuff to kind of fill in the gaps of this room. I feel like it's very hard for me to kind of clutter a place without it feeling too overwhelming sometimes, because I never know, or I guess I do know, but sometimes it takes me a while to figure out like what is too much. Like sometimes I end up having to take things away because I'm like, maybe we can leave some room for, like character development for the house, I guess. Like if someone were to download this build, I want to leave it so that you can still like add your own personal touches and like make it more suitable for the Sims that may be living here. But I also want to make sure that it's filled in enough for those who maybe don't want to decorate, that they don't really have to worry about that. So it's kind of hard finding that balance, but I feel like as I've built more and more, it's been getting a little bit easier. I try to like give myself the room to add like a couple plants or a couple like decor pieces, and then after that I'm like, okay, that's enough. We need to move on to the next room. And I think working on each room or each section of the house one at a time sometimes helps with that. And also sometimes like cutting myself off early, if that makes sense. Like I will start working on a room and like put down the bare necessities and like a few little extra clutter pieces, and then I'll come back to it later and decide if I want to add more to it or if it's like good as it is. If I feel like the room is functional and it looks cute enough on its own, I won't add anything else. But if I feel like it's looking quite like bare or could use like a couple pieces here and there, then I'll throw those in, but I don't tend to go overboard, if that makes any sense. Um Trying to figure out what to do in like the middle spaces. I don't know what might be like a better word for that, but not necessarily like a hallway, but just like spaces in between rooms is sometimes hard to do, because I feel like if it's too empty, then it's like very noticeable. It's like there's a giant like empty space in this room. You need to put something there. But I also feel like if there's too much, then it's like there's no room for like your Sims to move around and navigate. Even though they only do need a half tile space, like I still want it to feel like a real home. You're not going to put something in every like inch and quarter of your house unless that's your vibe. Um but yeah, I decided to put like a big grand piano in one of the little spaces, and then the other area I turned into just like a hallway kind of space. There was like a rug, the little whiteboard from Parenthood, and then a mirror to kind of make the space feel a little bit larger. Now, this was another one of the feature rooms that I wanted to have in this build. A little sitting room, sunroom, if you will, kind of a greenhouse, but not really. And I love this room so much. I think this would be my second favorite room in this house because I love the green and the pink colors that I chose. I feel like everything kind of works really well together because I tried to like pull the colors from like the rug into like different parts of the room. I also added like little clutter pieces on the floor. I don't know why, but that's been my thing lately, just adding clutter on the ground because I feel like I don't know, it makes the house feel like more personal sometimes. Like adding little books by the couch has been one of my favorite things to do because it's like giving the vibe that like, someone has their like stack of books they want to read and they bring it next to them to like actually get, through their books. The little box I added with the clutter pieces in there, a little cross stitching kit, because sometimes you don't want to fill up the tables completely and there's a lot of floor space in some of these rooms. So using that up more often has made my builds feel a little bit more lived in. I also feel like in other games that have decorating, you don't really have the freedom to place things wherever you want. So you kind of get used to having to make use of like every single tile because usually you can only place one item per tile in a lot of other games. So I feel like I brought that aspect into this build, like adding the books in front of the chair, the cross stitching kit on the floor. But I think it turned out really cute. I added some ivy on the walls, and now we've moved into the upstairs bedroom. I was struggling a little bit with this because the bookcases downstairs were like glitching through the floor. And it's understandable because I did stack up the bookshelves quite high, and I don't think that's like the normal height that they would be. Um, but it was a little bit frustrating because I constantly was going back and forth trying to figure out like why it was glitching out like that, and I had to use tool to lower the bookshelves a little bit so that they didn't do that. However, I managed to fix the issue, and then we moved on to the bedroom. This room was my struggle room. I feel like every other part of the house, maybe even if they took a bit of time, like I kind of knew what I wanted to do or I knew how to like make everything work together. But this room really tested my patience. I will say that. I was ready to give up by the time I got to the bedroom because I was like, I don't really know what I want to do here. Since the rest of the house was like a mix of vintage and modern, I was like, I don't know if I want to go for modern style or if I want to go for like a vintage style or if I want to do both. Um I don't know if I want it to be too fancy or like a little bit more simple. So you can see right now I really had like a full on layout for the bedroom, kind of had the vibe of what I wanted to do, and then you'll see that I changed it completely because I was like, no, this doesn't look cute, it doesn't match the rest of the house, I need to change it. So I went for this more simple one from Dream Home Decorator, and then this turned into a Dream Home Decorator room, which you'll see in a second. I did add some pieces from other packs as well, but like if you don't have Dream Home Decorator, like this room is going to disappear for you. It's going to be replaced by other items, but the idea is pretty much everything in this room is Dream Home Decorator. And the reason being was because I was feeling so uninspired. I was like, I know I used Dream Home Decorator in the living room, so we can bring in like the same color scheme if we use the same pack because they all tend to have similar swatches. And then I was like, okay, this looks kind of cute. Let's keep this going. So I added I added more of the stuff from that pack throughout the room, and then it started to like feel like it was coming together. I added this little desk from Dream Home Decorator. I put like a cute little streamer gaming setup type vibe. I don't really think it necessarily gives like a gamer vibe, more like a podcaster or a YouTuber. But it could also just be like someone who needs a camera for whatever, form of work they do. Maybe they need to do like video calls for their business or something. So I really like how it turned out. I added a lot of chairs to sit. So one thing your sim will not have to worry about is where to sit, because everywhere is a place to sit. I don't know where I was going with that, but like literally there are a lot of chairs in this house, and I don't really know why that happened, but I'm not mad at it. And yeah, that's just the way that it is, I guess. And then here I was trying to do something fun. I don't know. I was trying to like fill in the little shelves in there, but like nothing wanted to slot to that dresser. So I just gave up in the end. I filled one in and I was like, the other one can just be empty, and that's just how it's gonna have to be. You can also see me bringing in the aspect of putting things on the floor, because I put one of the teddy bear decor items, like the one with the heart, I put that on the floor. Here I was trying to figure out what I wanted to put in this space in between like the little seating area, getting ready area, and I decided to put like a little artist tarp, and I think it looked really cute. I don't use the easel as often as I used to, but it looked really good in this space. And this is the last room of the house. After this, I really only finished up the landscaping on the outside and did like the backyard area. But this was my final room. Wanted to make it look cute. I knew I wanted to have that little shelf that goes around the bathtub or goes over the bathtub, and I could not remember where I had seen that. Obviously on this one it's kind of like on the edge of the bathtub, but I still love it very much. I know there's a bathtub, I think with like seasons or something. I don't know if it has that little shelf that goes around over the tub, but it really should if it doesn't. I really love that one, but I kind of like having the bath shower combo a little bit more, especially for gameplay. Sometimes the baths are just too long. You're like, they need to hurry this up, so you just want to have a shower. Sometimes you want them to have like more of a self-care day, so you put the bathtub. So I like the combos because then they can do both and I don't have to make the space for two separate items. And then here's me just finishing up the backyard space. We have a grill, we have a little picnic area, and then there's just like a few little cutesy decor items that I add. And that's pretty much it for this build. I really hope that you all enjoy it because it took me a long time to finish, and I don't normally spend this much time on a build. So hopefully the next one won't take me like 3 days. If you have any suggestions for things you'd like to see me build, then let me know in the comments down below. Be sure to stick around for the screenshots at the end of the video. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Check me out on Twitch, twitch.tv/AlluringSimmer, link in the description. And I'll see you all next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye everyone.